Our story starts in the land of Oz, where a dutiful and righteous man who goes by the name of Job lived. His life was one full of blessings. With 7 sons and 3 daughters, his family was picture perfect. He also had plenty of riches, including thousands of sheep and camels, hundreds of oxen and donkeys, and more than just a handful of servants. Believing in sharing the gifts the Lord bestowed upon him, Job would often hold feasts on special occasions, inviting his sisters, community members, and others. Everything seemed to be a dream come true until the fateful moment God called the angels to present themselves, and Satan came along.
Where have you come from?
From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it.
Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil.
You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now, stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face.
Very well then. Everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself you will not lay a finger.
One peaceful day as Job sat, a messenger arrived with dreadful news. Marauding Sabaeans had attacked, slaughtering the oxen and donkeys, leaving devastation in their wake. Meanwhile, a second messenger brought word of a raging fire that engulfed Job's sheep, leaving only sorrowful ashes behind. And then, another messenger arrived, reporting the ruthless plundering of Job's camels by the Chaldeans, leaving him reeling from yet another devastating blow. As Job's heart weighed heavy with grief, the final blow struck like a thunderbolt. A mighty wind, born of the desert's fury, swept through his son's abode, shattering its very foundation. Job, stricken with grief and disbelief, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground in worship. Despite the unfathomable loss, he uttered words of faith and surrender.
The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised.
It didn't even stop there. Satan also cursed Job with painful sores from head to toe, and Job could only soothe them by scraping himself with broken pottery. His wife was baffled, even asking him,
"Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God already and die."
Job's friends Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite set out to visit him, only to start weeping and faltering under the heaviness of what had befallen their just and kind friend. Fighting his despair and almost losing, Job started wishing he was never born.
Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb?
After some time, even Job's friends left him on his own, questioning his personality and integrity, and even questioning if God had really abandoned him. Job cried out,
"How long will you torment me and crush me with words?"
In the midst of his despair, however, the Lord asked Job some things to reveal a deeper truth.
Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Tell me if you understand.
It was like a sip of cold water on the hottest of summer days. It was like Job came back to his senses and felt an ever-strong urge to preserve and keep the faith.
I know that my Redeemer lives and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes. I and not another. How my heart yearns within me.
After God spoke to Job, God addressed Eliphaz the Temanite and his companions, expressing his displeasure at their false words about him, unlike his faithful servant Job. To atone, God instructed Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar to bring 7 bulls and 7 rams for a burnt offering. They were to present these offerings before Job and seek his intercession and prayer. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar promptly obeyed God's command, presenting the offerings to Job as directed. God accepted Job's prayer on behalf of his friends, and in response restored his fortune twofold, abundantly blessing him. Those who had shunned Job during his trials now gathered around him, offering him comfort, consolation, and support. In the latter years of his life, Job witnessed an abundance of blessings from God, with 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, and a vast herds of oxen and donkeys. His prosperity surpassed even his former wealth. Moreover, Job was blessed with 7 sons and 3 daughters, each more beautiful than the last. Job lived to a ripe old age of 240 years and passed away peacefully, leaving behind a legacy of faith, resilience, and the enduring blessings of God. 300 years have passed since Joseph. The Israelites, once favored, are now enslaved under a new pharaoh in Egypt. Pharaoh was not a good guy. Fearing the growing number of Israelites, Pharaoh decides that all newborn Hebrew boys must be thrown into the Nile River. In an effort to save her baby,
Everything's gonna be okay, baby. I've got you.
one mother decides to put her baby in a basket and float him along the Nile. By divine protection, the basket floats towards the Pharaoh's place, where the baby is discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter. She decides to adopt him.
I'll name him Moses.
Moses grows up as a prince in Pharaoh's place, surrounded by luxury. One day, he ventures out and witnesses a brutal scene, an Egyptian overseer mercilessly beating an Israelite slave. These beatings were not new, but this time, something inside Moses snaps. Moses strikes down the Egyptian, killing him with a single powerful blow. Fearful of the consequences, Moses flees Egypt, with no other choice but to wander through the harsh desert. After days of wandering, he arrives in Midian. He finds refuge here and begins a new life, where he marries Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, and becomes a shepherd. On another day tending to his flock, Moses led the sheep to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Curious, Moses approaches the strange sight. God called to him from within the bush.
Moses, Moses,
Here I am.
do not come near. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. But the Lord said,
I have witnessed the affliction of my people in Egypt, and I have heard their cry against their taskmasters. I know well what they are suffering. Therefore I've come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians, and to lead them up from that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
Moses, overwhelmed by the enormity of the task, questioned his own ability to lead such a mission. God reassured him of his presence and support, promising to be with him every step of the way. However, Moses expressed concern about his speaking abilities, but God reassured him by appointing his brother Aaron to speak on his behalf, promising to help both of them communicate effectively. With this assurance, Moses accepted the mission. Strengthened by the encounter with God and the promise of Aaron's assistance, he prepared to return to Egypt, ready to lead his people out of bondage and into freedom. Moses returns to Egypt with a divine mission. He confronts Pharaoh.
The Lord commands that you let my people go.
I do not know your Lord, and I will not let Israel go.
To demonstrate God's power, Aaron stands before Pharaoh and throws down his staff, which miraculously transforms into a serpent. Pharaoh's magicians replicate this act by casting their staffs down, turning them into serpents as well. Aaron's serpent swiftly wins the battle, leaving no doubt about the true power of God. Despite witnessing this undeniable sign, Pharaoh refuses to let the Israelites go, and God responds by sending 10 devastating plagues. The Nile turns to blood, filling the air with the stench of death. Frogs overrun the land, invading homes and food supplies. Gnats infest every person and animal. Flies swarm throughout the land, causing chaos. A deadly disease wipes out the livestock, crippling Egypt's economy. Painful boils afflict the Egyptians, their skin covered in sores. A massive hailstorm destroys crops and property. Swarms of locusts consume what little vegetation remains. Darkness envelops the land for 3 days, a palpable terror. On the night of the final plague, known as Passover, God instructs the Israelites to sacrifice a spotless lamb and mark their doorpost with its blood. This act of faith will protect them, as the blood will be a sign for the death angel to pass over their homes, sparing their firstborn from the deadly plague. At midnight, the death angel moved through Egypt, striking down the firstborn in every Egyptian household, including Pharaoh's old son. In his grief and despair, Pharaoh finally relents.
Take your people and leave.
The Israelites, after generations of slavery, hasten to depart, filled with both hope and fear. They follow God's instructions, leaving Egypt behind to begin a new chapter in their lives. The Israelites move forward, guided by a towering pillar of fire, a sign of God's presence leading them through the desert. But Pharaoh has changed his mind and is now hunting down the Israelites, his army closing in. The once celebrated escape now feels like a trap, and panic spreads like wildfire. But Moses stands firm, his voice calm but commanding.
Do not be afraid. Stand still and watch what the Lord will do.
God commands Moses to raise his hand. As he does, the sea begins to split. Awestruck, the Israelites hesitate and then quickly begin to cross the dry seabed where they see large fish swimming next to them in the ocean. Pharaoh commands his army to charge forward after them, relentless in his pursuit. But as the last of the Israelites reach the far shore of safety, the waters fiercely surge back, swallowing Pharaoh's entire army beneath the sea. The waters then return to a magical calm. For the first time in generations, the Israelites are free. They burst out in celebration, ready to follow God and embrace a new life. It all began in the beautiful land of Roman Britain. There lived a teenager named Patrick. One day, Patrick was going about his normal life, but fate had something else in mind. A group of slave traders arrived, snatching people from the island, Patrick included. The slave traders sailed off to Ireland, where Patrick would face 6 long years of hardship that would crush many. He was tasked with looking after sheep in the cold, lonely fields. At the time, Ireland housed hundreds of chieftains who fought over the land. They cared little for each other and had no respect for prisoners. Throughout Patrick's slavery, there were countless times he went to bed hungry, had no clothes, and was left shivering from the cold. In the quiet hills under the wide, starry sky, Patrick found comfort in whispering to God. Up until this time in his life, Patrick hadn't taken his faith very seriously. However, his environment had changed him from a non-religious boy to a faithful man destined to make an impact in the world. Patrick's newfound connection with God ignited a flame within him that helped him withstand any struggle he faced. Then one magical night, Patrick had an intense dream. In this dream, God spoke directly to him. The voice was clear and powerful. "Patrick," God said, "your suffering has not gone unnoticed. It's time to leave this land." A vision unfolded before Patrick's eyes, a distant port and a ship waiting to carry him home. Patrick awoke from his dream, filled with a new purpose, and set out on a daring journey. He walked over 200 miles on foot over rugged landscapes, crossing hills and valleys under the vast sky, driven by the divine message of freedom. With each step, he visualized the port and the ship that awaited him. Without stopping once, Patrick arrived at the port. He miraculously secured a ticket that would take him home to Britain, something that was thought to be impossible for a slave. After 6 long years and 1 month of sailing, Patrick arrived home once again. He was finally reunited with his family, but 6 years in Ireland had changed him. He quickly grew restless while in Britain. In the middle of the night, Patrick once again had an intense visionary dream. This time, the air was filled with whispers from the Irish people. The voices are begging him, "Return to us, walk among us, be our guiding light." This vivid call to action regenerated Patrick's purpose, leading him to a journey back to the land that once enslaved him. Upon his return to Ireland, Patrick faced fierce opposition from Druid priests and skeptics who questioned his teachings and mission. Despite these confrontations, he remained determined to make a lasting positive change. He engaged in dialogues and demonstrated his faith through actions and miracles. His perseverance began to dissolve the barriers of doubt, allowing the seeds of Christianity to take root. As Patrick continued his journey across Ireland, he established churches and promoted peace. His influence grew, transforming a land once divided by tribal conflicts into a united community, grounded in faith and mutual respect. Hello everyone, this is Jacob with FaithWorksToday, and I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for watching the full story video. I would love to create more videos like this, but in order to do that, I need your support. Please be sure to subscribe and share this video with a friend, and let's inspire each other one story at a time. God bless you and your family.